You two, because Uko's cool. Fuck Corwin. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the Stuck Pixel Podcast. This is episode 4 of season 1, and we will be discussing Psychonauts 2, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Season Passes, the VGAs, and if we have time, Dead or Alive Extreme 3. I am being joined. Sorry. I am your host, Good, and I am being joined
I said a few minutes ago.
by the most awesome co-hosts ever. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Corwin.
And I'm
Spicy
Uko.
Waffle.
I'm Uko from Spicy Waffle.
Okay, so...
And we're about to get a picture of a very small penis, I believe, on the screen.
Oh, you know what? I'm regretting this already. I used the bot. Oops.
This is going to be amazing, whatever it is. Nice. That's awesome.
Sweet. That is
So,
awesome.
I know that, like, we've been doing this podcast together for a while, and I've been putting the videos up on my channel, and, like, I haven't gotten them to you guys or anything, and I want to. I've just been super fucking busy.
Yeah.
So I was
It's all
trying to
good.
find a... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we understand all about the crazy super busyness. Tonight, we had to, like, struggle with YouTube to get our fucking videos up. I wanted to drive down to California and literally shove my foot up somebody's ass until it broke. That's what I wanted to do.
But we got it done. We made it
Yes.
happen.
Welcome, Unsieged. Glad to have you here, man. Yeah, tonight we are talking about all sorts of fun stuff, so stick around. I was just apologizing to Spicy because we've been doing this for about 4 weeks now, and I have not done everything I could to make sure Spicy's getting good promotion out of it. So now, every 30 minutes, Bot Under Development is going to remind everybody how awesome Corwin and Uko are in chat.
Kick ass.
And I will work on getting some other stuff arranged so that you guys, get something more out of it too.
So, what are we going to be talking about first? The season passes or what?
I think we should start with the thing that is most abrupt in your mind. So let's go with Psychonauts.
Okay, Psychonauts. I'll admit that Uko and I did not really like Psychonauts
7
1.
remake,
We think it's kind of
pass.
ugly, and it was from this just horrifying era in the PS2.
And a lot of it
Where
is I don't like
everything-
the genre. I don't like sort of 3D platforming
Yeah,
games.
it's not really a big thing we're into. But to me, the important thing is, even though I love Double Fine, one of my absolute favorite game developers, Tim Schafer, made the Grim Fandango, which was amazing, one of the top 10 games of all time in my mind. But with the release of Space Base DF9 on early access, they promised all this stuff, completed about 10% of it, said, well, we spent all your money, and now we're going to call the game complete, and you're screwed. So basically, that's basically what they said.
And everyone got mad, totally deservedly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go on. But so the thing is, apparently, it was at the Video Game Awards the other night. They did confirm Psychonauts 2 is coming. So immediately what happened is a lot of the people who were justifiably angry suddenly forgot all about the raid and were
they
like,
oh my God, Psychonauts 2! I'm so excited!
and it's just not cool.
No.
So I think there's a lot of that though in general amongst gamers. I think there's a lot of that, like, oh, we're really pissed off at you guys because of the way that you handled yourselves in this situation. And then, like, a beloved series comes out, and all of a sudden, everything is forgiven, and it's all good, man. It's all good.
I know, yeah, I know, and there's two poles to it. On the one hand, it's sad for like the community because it's like, hey, the anger tends to last only the amount of time you would be waiting for a new game anyway, and then it's coincidentally over.
I would understand the everything is forgiven kind of attitude if they weren't asking for your money before the game is released again.
Yeah,
That's the way I would feel.
And the other thing too, though, is like, since what they're doing is making a cool game in order to get people's forgiveness, why couldn't they have made a cool game with Space Base DF9 and got everyone to love them and then love them again when Psychonauts 2 came out?
And
That would be
that's what
like the
happens,
smart
in my
thing to do.
opinion, when really small studios massively overreach. And that's what Double Fine does all the time. They have way too many games going, and they overpromise and underdeliver,
Yeah.
in my opinion, even though I love their games for the most part.
So I have to point this out to you, Corwin, just to point it out because it's going to be fun, and you did make that tiny dick joke at the beginning. Anyways, the first response to this whole thing in chat is, of course, Connor Klaus saying, "Wait, Psychonauts 2? Yes!"
I saw that.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you, Connor. You just allowed me to get a little measure of revenge.
oh, it's
So, having never played Psychonauts, I just like looked up a picture of it to try to get an idea of what kind of game it is, and so it is essentially just like a 3D platformer.
Yeah.
yeah, and people apparently they love the characters and the story more than they do like the 3D platform.
They love their football-shaped heads.
Well, I will say the art style's different.
It's kind of Nightmare
They look
Before
like
Christmas Eve.
zombies. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that. It's just it's not my thing at all. And even though I won't necessarily say that graphics are everything, I think art is a very important part of anything gaming related.
Oh, thank you very much, Spicy, for reminding me what I wanted to say about this whole forgiveness thing. And this is where that CD Projekt Red segue comes in. I think CD Projekt Red, like the whole thing with them was, you know, they do downgrade gate. They have all these issues with the initial release of Witcher 3 with the way the game works and some of the bugginess and shit. And all of that gets buried because they unleash a bunch of free DLC. Like
Yeah.
they are the saints.
Yeah.
And I just, that bugged the shit out of me. Them getting Developer of the Year. I understand The Witcher winning. I do. I get that. People enjoyed the game. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
They enjoyed all of the quest hubs.
Right? Like, that's what bugged me, is when I turned it on and started seeing levels over enemies' heads and quest hubs, I was like, what the fuck is this? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, legitimately, yeah.
I got to admit, I kind of felt like that when I first saw in Fallout 4 the little skull by the too high level enemy. As a part of me that was like, you fucking shitting me? Fucking pulling this too high level enemy skull shit? I am not playing World of Warcraft, you motherfucker. That was how I originally felt about that.
Uh-huh. But you know, then it
calmed down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they didn't layer it on with that crap.
No, I mean, they didn't. The thing to me is they didn't show the number.
Yeah, that's what's important. That stuff is kept sort of in the background.
Still don't know
Yeah.
how the Witcher 1 roleplay category, I couldn't connect with Geralt.
No.
Connor, I completely agree, and I don't see how Fallout 4 being a role-playing game where you essentially design your character and then roleplay them
That's
loses.
one of the things that turns me off
Look,
completely
you
about
might not
that.
have been able to connect with Geralt, but all of the female characters in the entirety of the
Connected.
game did.
In the pants.
Oh my god, Spicy, I love you, man. Or Corwin, that was beautiful.
But
Just amazing
yeah,
delivery.
I just can never get into The Witcher. I've really tried. I
Well,
really want to enjoy
well,
it, but it's not my thing.
You put your finger on it when talking about
The Witcher put his finger on a lot of things too.
but like this idea of I want a role-playing game character. I know I've been spoiled by this because I know a lot of games, especially back in the day, you would customize a pre-existing character. But I have been spoiled completely by this idea of I make my character all the way from his nostril size on down through to everything.
Including his penis size?
Yes. And then it suddenly becomes, hey, if it's Saints Row. But then you get into the thing where it's like, okay, here's Geralt. He's only what Geralt is, except that you're also customizing his abilities and stuff. And that just seems like a weird disconnect to me. It's a lot of that is just personal preference, but there it is.
Well, I think that, to be fair, though, I think, like, you have to take a look back at the origins of, like, role-playing games in gaming. Like, think about, like, Final Fantasy or something. Like, you still took control of a specific character there, but I think the fact that you had to swap between multiples in your party and control all of them made it so that you didn't feel super vested in one. Oh, thank you for the follow, Punk Kid 123456. I love your name. That's great. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Corwin.
I think that one of the things is that in Final Fantasy, a lot of it is about the world, the quality of the game world, and the different neat little things you can do. And it's a very linear, controlled experience. And whereas something like The Witcher or Fallout is not supposed to be like that at all.
So the way I feel about Witcher, let me be clear. The Witcher 1, I thought the story and the role-playing aspect of it was great, but that combat system made the entire game a fucking slog. It was cool and different, but it was a fucking slog. But I feel like with Witcher 2, they refined that, and I feel like out of the three, that was the strongest game overall.
It's the one I never touched, so I don't know.
So
Yeah,
that
all I know
one, oh, go ahead,
that in
Corbin.
the Witcher 1, I remember a very specific thing where I get in, I start the game, and there's the thing where it's like he has amnesia, and I immediately start eye rolling with the fucking amnesia. But we get past the amnesia, and we finally get out into the game world after killing like 300 zombies who are invading some like decrepit ass castle that's falling apart. And there's some weird shit where you get trapped behind a fucking force field and you can't kill the enemy. And it's all shit that like I thought was way too played out for anyone to find enjoyable, but a bunch of people did. But then we get out into the game world, and I fight through some sort of marshy swampland, and I get to this one village, and like literally all of the quests are in the one village, and most of them are like, so read this book to find out what these mushrooms look like, and then go out into the swamp and pick some mushrooms for no fucking reason. And I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? Give me a fucking reason to go. At least tell me you'll suck my dick or give me a bag of gold. But instead, it's just like, go to the mushroom because I am a guy with a beard and a wrinkly bald head.
Well,
And
to
then
be
I just
fair,
like, fuck this boring ass game.
to be fair, you got to know it's The Witcher. Someone's going to suck your dick.
Yes.
That's going to happen eventually. But I agree with you about the combat so much that it was different and it was unique, but it was a slog. It was sort of it was not even grindy. Just it was like you're saying, it's a slog. It felt like it was sluggish somehow.
It was cool until you mastered it, and then it just became a chore.
Yeah, exactly.
Unsiege says the best thing he liked about it, because he read the books, was the references to the book, and that makes sense, Unsiege. I feel like the second game, though, the combat was much, much crisper. Basically, the combat in Witcher 3 is almost identical to the combat in Witcher 2.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. The combat did not seem nearly as bad in The Witcher 3 to me. But on the other hand, it started getting toward where it was a little bit more just like a traditional action role-playing game, which I didn't like that much. But maybe if I'd played it on a higher difficulty level, I wanted to get through it as fast as possible for the video we were making.
Oh, totally. So Witcher 2, for me, played kind of like Zelda. So yeah, that classic action role-playing game.
Yeah.
And that was fine for me. It worked really, really well, and it was a really orchestrated experience. So it was Geralt, but you went through this very, very detailed, orchestrated story experience with a couple of branches, nothing super extreme, but the different branches let you see like two sides of a conflict and get both flavors of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And the game was well written, the story followed, the ending was great, everything was basically spot on. I thought the game was great in general. The only weakness that I thought the game had was that they made the Qun sign or whatever, like, amazingly OP.
Yeah, I think that my biggest problem with The Witcher at the end of the day is just that it reminds me too much of World of Warcraft, and that the writing isn't much better than World of Warcraft in my eyes. And that's
How far did you play into it, if you don't mind me asking, Corwin?
Like a little bit past that thing where you get to that first village.
Okay, so one of my coworkers bought the game, felt the same exact way as me, was just like, you know what, I couldn't get into it, I just kind of gave up. And then his girlfriend started playing it, and she got, like, I guess a quarter of the way into the game, and then everything just sort of kicked into high gear. And, like, he says that once you hit that point, the writing is damn near on par with something like Game of Thrones.
That's interesting.
That is really interesting. If that's true, that's a shame that... If that's true, it's really a shame because
everything I've ever seen from the other Witcher games, but...
I mean, I was going to say you really want it to be the other way where it starts out really well, but then, of course, that means you would have a shitty ending, so...
Yeah.
Well, I feel like if you don't grab somebody in the first 25% of the game, you've already lost.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember reading Neil Gaiman talking about how he talked to someone in his, like one of his publisher people, and that she said that with the vast majority of all manuscripts that she gets every day, that within the first page, the person has revealed himself to be either an insane person, blatantly copying other people, or just like
unpublishable,
just publishly terrible. And that if something gets past if she can read past the first 5 pages, there's like a 50-50 chance that the book is
going to Gonna get
signed
close
in
to
some way.
sign. Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of feel like if books are held to that standard, where if they don't grab you by the throat and say, read me or die, then video games should be held to the same standard.
Totally.
Okay, to be fair, like I'm struggling for some examples here, but I have played games where the beginning was really, really slow, but then it picks up in the middle and the game becomes incredibly fun.
Yeah.
You know what is a good example? Both Portal games.
Yeah.
And that's
because
necessary.
then again, it's necessary
Because you have to
Portal.
learn how to do the shit.
Yeah.
So it is, games do have that problem because a book doesn't have to teach you to read every time when you read a book.
Yeah. So like I think that some of the Final Fantasy games felt that way a little bit.
That's true too, because they have to introduce all the main cast of the game, and there's like 9
Final
of them.
Fantasy X is a really good example of that. I think part of the reason why so many people like Final Fantasy VII is because it throws you straight into the action from the very moment that the game begins, and then it takes a step back after the first like 30 minutes and starts like introducing all of the characters properly. And I think that's part of why people love Final Fantasy VII.
Totally. I think that's a great way to look at it. So I don't know. I've not played past the first quarter, and I don't know if I ever will, just because time. But
YouTube plus other stuff in your life, it just sucks out any remaining time. It's like one of those vacuum sealing things, so you can like pack more of your jeans under your bed or something like that, or whatever the fuck.
Because it sucks time out instead of air.
Sucks time out instead of air.
oh, hey, what's up, Azrael? Don't worry about it. We started just a little bit ago. We're just basically bagging on Psychonauts 2 and The Witcher 3.
Yeah, two things that people love. That's how you get positive attention for your podcast.
You know what? I tend to believe that people will appreciate the honesty. I don't think Unsieged or Connor has left yet, and I don't think either one of them agreed with us on all counts.
The other thing is that I know that people love The Witcher, and if people want to love The Witcher, that is totally cool with me.
A lot of it is just
it's not for me, and I've accepted that.
Yeah, in fact, I was talking to Corwin, off of any kind of media, earlier, and I was thinking about how really what it is that The Witcher, it's just not written for me or made for me. Because
we're not the intended audience, I guess.
A lot of people, they see that game and they instantly feel the way I feel about the Elder Scrolls. When I see anything from, the Elder Scrolls, Elder Scrolls 6 gets announced and everyone's like, everyone else is like reserving judgment, I will instantly be like, this is my shit, damn it. So, there are people for whom that's how they feel when anything with The Witcher. And so I am clearly on board with that. If that is rubbing your sweet spot, then I'm good with it.
See, so I feel like The Witcher 3 was one of those games that I was really looking forward to, and I don't know that I would say... No, I lie. I would say I was completely disappointed, but I haven't played enough into it to be fair about saying that. I just know that, like, the beginning didn't grab me at all, especially not in comparison to the way that the original games did. And I know the first one was a little bit abrupt, but on the second one, the game started with you basically going through, like, a castle siege and killing a fucking dragon.
Yeah, I have not played much of the second at all. I played a fair bit of the first, and then I tried to enjoy the third, and it just kind of made my brain want to die.
Yeah, if you ever have time, I strongly recommend the second. I think it was the best example of what The Witcher could be. The cool thing about it was the whole intro sequence where you play through this castle siege and you kill the dragon. You're actually a prisoner being interrogated by a guy who basically tells you he'll kill you if you don't answer.
Interesting.
That is cool.
So it's like a flashback sequence. It was really, really well done, and like if you manage to convince the guy that you're telling the truth, he'll actually sort of help you escape so that you can go prove it.
Pretty cool.
That is cool.
Actually, that is a lot better than the amnesia bullshit that starts off the first game.
Yeah, that's actually fresh.
Yeah, no, it was really well done, and it was impressive, and there's this whole, like, pseudo-stealth sequence where you sneak through with, like, a wooden stick, cudgeling people in the back of the head.
Beating people, look, what you gotta do is whip out your Witcher cock and just smack them over the head with that.
Well, we know that
much
thing
better,
is
much better than a big old cudgel.
We know that's like a +1 dick. It does massive damage.
He has to keep it in pristine prime condition because it's gonna get a fucking it's going to get worn the fuck out with all the women in The Witcher. Okay,
You know what I think was the thing that always made me uncomfortable was the thing where you would get like the collectible card for sleeping with the woman. However, at the same time, I would love to have those, hey, congrats on having sex with me cards just sort of in the pocket there. Sort of that's worth 5 or 6
Okay,
call you in the morning.
Speaking of weird ass games, though, they released Dragon Quest, like Dragon Quest Heroes or something on Steam, and I actually bought that not to play it on our YouTube channel or anything, but because I love Dragon Quest, and I'm actually really enjoying it so far. It's like the anti Final Fantasy Type 0, which I didn't really particularly like that much. It's like they took the same game in some ways, but did it with Dragon Quest, and
It is awesome.
Instead, it's like actually really smooth and non-shitty, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And it's like a good example of how to do an alternate type of a classic game, in my opinion. And it gives me a little bit of hope that maybe the Final Fantasy VII remake, even if it is some sort of action-y version, won't be absolutely horrible.
Legitimately.
I don't think that you can do Final Fantasy VII Remake horrible. And the reason I say that, Unsieged I saw, and I will answer your question in just a second. Let me finish this thought before I lose it, because I'm like that. I think the thing about Final Fantasy VII that will automatically make it great is that if you think about like Final Fantasy 13, the thing that sucked most wasn't necessarily the combat system. It was the fact that you were railroaded through the game just in a straight fucking path with no ability to actually have an open world of any kind. And you can't do that with Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest fear, that they might make it a little bit more linear, and that would be horrible. But I also don't think that it's a good sign at all with them seemingly, it looks a lot like the paradigm system in Final Fantasy 13 to me. I don't think it's actually an ARPG, but it looks like the paradigm system.
That's not cool.
And that's not good.
That's not cool. Very nice. Unsieged, to answer your question, I think I met the Bloody Baron and then I was just done. I didn't like get to know him or anything.
And like I have to, after doing YouTube, I have to love a game. I want to make sweet love and have babies with a game to continue playing it if it's a gigantic like 300-hour game, because I no longer have time.
No, totally. I know exactly what you mean. I find myself favoring indie games with like shorter playtimes a lot more.
Yeah, like Broforce and freaking what else are we playing recently?
Yeah, like stuff like Hotline Miami is perfect.
Yep.
If you have a YouTube channel, because you can play it like one level at a time if you want, and it only lasts a few hours. It's the perfect kind of game for a YouTuber. I also think though that provided that the game doesn't turn out to be absolutely awful, that Just Cause 3
that's another
the
one
kind
like
of game that I could play even while having a YouTube channel, because of the fact that Just Cause offers a lot of just roaming around doing shit and not necessarily having to be deeply
it's like you go and clear a settlement, it auto saves, and then you fuck off.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, so that game actually looks hilarious to me because I turned on a stream.
Did you ever play the other one? The 2 and 1? I didn't play one.
I have never played a Just Cause, but I turned on Game Meets Girls stream earlier today, and she was playing it, and it was just hilarious watching all the like grapple hook line attachments.
Oh yeah, that's the best part of the game. It is.
I guarantee you that during the Steam sale that's coming up, Just Cause 2 will go on sale for like $2.
Oh
it's
yeah,
like almost certainly will. And
at the very least, get that.
Give it a shot, because Just Cause 2 is such an amazingly fun game that it's the kind of game where you don't even feel, even if you abandon playing it midway through, you don't even feel bad about it, because it's you get out of it what you get out of it.
It's a popcorn game.
You could just say you're done with it.
And like it is. I mean, okay. Do yourself a favor when you get in there. You attach the grappling hook to. You'll get like a little tiny jet that's kind of like the one Bond had in whichever one of those movies. And you land it on our highway, attach it to like a small car, and then try to take off with the car attached.
Yep.
And you will love yourself for doing it.
Yeah, it's the only game that I know of where you can steal a jetliner, fly it into the sky, and then stand on top of it, and then hook yourself onto a boat in the water and pick up the boat in mid-fucking flight.
It is that cool.
Oh my god. Okay, so when I was watching Game Meets Girl here, she shot a cow or something? Or no, it was a deer. She shot a deer with one end of the grapple hook, and then she latched it to this person's car, and the person just drove down the road repeatedly hitting the deer.
Oh, that's awesome.
One
That
of the
is
things
awesome.
we would do when we were playing Just Cause 2, back when it was, we were playing it, I think, on the PS3 or something way
Yeah,
back.
I almost completed it on the PS3
And
before it came out on the
We'd
PC.
like use the grappler to collect a whole bunch of dudes in the back of a truck.
Like a flatbed with like a
and just
thing around the
drive
flatbed.
along with the flatbed full of dead bodies.
And the best part is you would
glitch out with the physics.
Well, yeah, they would glitch out. The best part is you would go over a bump, and the dead bodies would just gush blood like crazy.
Yeah. It's the only game I know of that you can like drag people to death by attaching them to your car.
Yeah, there's an achievement for that.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna
They-
have
they
to
live
look
for a
more
while,
into
too.
Just Cause. I am.
Just Cause 2, I guarantee you it'll be like $2 or something during the sale. And
So if you
in my
love it,
opinion,
you can.
it's still a really good looking game.
It
Does
is.
not actually look that much worse than 3. And it has got to be one of the best like time to enjoyment ratios of any game that I can think of.
Okay, on that note, hey Game Goon, welcome. Good to see you, man. I was gonna say, so thank you to Corwin and Uko because they granted me a copy of Payday 2, so I did not have to give Overkill money, and I still get the option of enjoying
Sweet.
that with Continue tomorrow.
Yup.
So I tried to play it last night on my stream.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man. If any game ever needed a fucking tutorial,
Okay, look, we don't play the game anymore because of the bullshit. But at some point, we'll just fucking install it and play some Payday 2 with you because the game is an amazing game, and we actually have played a fuck ton.
Yeah,
of
we
it.
know all
Like,
about how to play it, unless they
I would
changed
put
it
like
massively.
250 hours into it or something.
Yeah,
like
legitimately,
that.
and it's usually just with the two of us, but we both have 250 hours. It's
like
crazy.
We're though no, I actually
Oh my God.
embarrassingly I have 436 hours.
Yeah, we're
on
looking
Steam
at
and
it right
Payday
now
2.
on his Steam account.
yeah, no, like I tried to play it and like I could not. Like I went in with this team that wanted to go in stealth, and I was like
Oh, yeah,
level
you,
6.
Oh, if you
Oh.
don't know what you're doing, trying to stealth right off the bat like that, you're going to embarrass yourself.
Yep.
It's going to be
Yeah,
horrifying.
people will be so angry.
Well, yeah, so we walk into the building, and the first thing I do is we walk through this door, and a guard turns and sees us, and I shoot him in the face.
And then let me guess.
No, yeah, and then the
Oh.
game literally drops back out to the lobby.
Oh, great.
Oh yeah, and they're like, dude, the fuck you doing, bro? The fuck you doing? You're ruining our fucking stealth run, bro.
It wasn't so
Oh.
bad as that, because before we went in, I said, like, this is my first game.
Do you even payday, bro?
No, but the stealth thing, it's frustrating and glorious, and it like just talking about it makes me mad that I have to be mad at them. It just
You know, Asriel was
Why?
asking if there's any game we've ever played that's completely ridiculous that we loved. And to me, the most ridiculous game I can think of that I loved so much is Katamari Damacy. That game
Yes,
where you
I love
play
that game.
as the little like intergalactic prince who rolls around collecting Japanese schoolgirls in his ball and then eventually takes over the universe or some shit. That game is fucking amazing. Have you ever played it, Katamari?
No, I've never played that.
The game,
Oh,
the
you
game is
have to.
fucking amazing.
you owe it to yourself.
And like once it's got one of those earworm songs where eventually you'll be like on your deathbed at like 98 years old or something, and you'll suddenly be like, la, 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 la. My voice is totally
Yeah, I
fucked
can't-
up. I
mine
can't
is
hum
too,
for
yeah.
shit right now. But
But the song is
all that
completely.
YouTube screaming is destroying my voice entirely.
But no, Katamari Damacy, that's definitely one for me too.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got one, and it's like so far out of the realm that nobody's even gonna know what the fuck I'm talking.
Go for
There
it.
is a game that is made by this independent developer called M. Dickey's Wrestling Encore.
Oh, In Dickies or M Dickies?
M. Dickies.
Okay.
And it's basically a wrestling game that this guy built, and it's all like, it's not quite Minecraft, but it's pretty close to that. Like, it's fairly blocky. But the beauty of it is that every possible match type you could humanly imagine is in the game, and
That's
every
awesome.
object that is in the game is breakable.
That's really
That's
fucking
good. So
sweet.
super ultra destructive environment wrestling.
You know,
I
that
like
actually
it.
reminds me, though, once again, of that game Base Wars, where it was an NES game. It was like a VGA graphics NES game where you played as like baseball robots from the year 2090 or something, or 2900 or something like that. And like you would fight on the bases.
And like
It's
what it
fucking
was,
amazing.
it was like battle chess except baseball. So like whenever there was an out, you would fight over it. So if you weren't safe but you won the fight, you would be safe on first,
Yup.
etc. Yeah, and like it would go to the ground. The level of like the pitcher had a cannon in his arm instead of throwing it.
Yup. Another amazingly weird game, though. First of all, at one point, this Russian kid contacted us on Twitter and was like, "Play my game. It's called Mr. President Prologue, and you play as like the president, and you shoot like all sorts of people who are trying to take over the country, and then you're like driving. It's this weird. It's a physics type of game, right?
Like a
And
2D side
we did a
scrolling
video of
physics
it on
game.
the channel, and like surprisingly, it got like 1,500 views or something, which I would really never have expected. But and you end up with like a fight on Air Force One, and then you get like the 2D version of that scene from Saints Row 3 where you're falling from the plane.
While you're still
And
fighting the dudes.
You're falling from the plane, fighting all these people who are trying to assassinate you, and then eventually you land, and it's like, full game coming soon. Oh,
It was intense.
also not a hero. That game was fucking crazy.
Yeah, but
If
that's
you've
not
never
like a
played it-
ridiculous one. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty
Okay.
ridiculous.
Oh, you want to
honestly.
go obscure though? Marshmallow Duel.
Oh, Marshmallow Duel.
Have you ever heard of that?
No, I have not.
Or Cyber Dogs from way back in
Oh,
the day.
Cyber Dogs is like a top-down version of Doom, kinda.
Oh, yeah. I want to also mention, if you may have noticed a Tron game that came out on Steam called Tron Runner.
Run
like
the
an
other
endless
way.
Runner. Fuck that shit. We bought it and refunded it within like 2 minutes. We were going to do a video on it. It was total shit. It was the easiest, shittiest endless runner that I'd ever seen.
Okay, so now that you guys have gone and run your course, I'm going to finish telling you why M. Dickey Wrestling Encore was amazing. Okay, so literally, like, I'm gonna walk you through what their career mode looks like. You start out as a scrub in wrestling school, doing
Awesome.
matches with people that are better than you, and you can, like, build up your stats each week, but if you do, it lowers your health, and then you have to go out and have your match. Now, damage sustained between matches doesn't heal up completely. It heals a certain amount based on, like, your endurance. So if you go tear yourself up, you're fucked next week.
That is awesome. I have to play this.
Have
It
you
gets
seen
even
anybody-
better. Okay, well, let me finish. There's so much more, and I'm going to go through it brief and quick. So,
Oh yes.
once you get going, like, when you do your entrances, you have full control of your guy. So, like, I had the suck it thing with my guy, so I'm walking out to the ring, and I just stop as soon as I clear the door, and I jump up on the guardrail and just tell the crowd to suck it, and then I jump over to the other side, do the same thing. And then walk into the ring, do whatever. Oh, and the best part is, if you're out there, like, dueling with somebody on the mics, they'll give you, like, chat or text options. But when it's over, you keep the mic and you can use it to beat their ass.
That is hysterical.
And when I say
Oh, that
beat
is
their
the
ass,
bomb.
I mean this. If you have a weapon in your hand and you execute a move, you keep the weapon in your hand.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, like, there's a mounted punch where the guy just basically climbs on top of him and starts punching him. If you were holding a mic when you do this, every time you hit them, you hear the mic, like, screech out. Yeah, it's like... And it just tears the shit out of them. And the best part is you can actually injure people in this game as well as bloody them. And the blood gets worse over time.
So it's like it's kind of like Minecraft meets Paint the Town Red.
So the craziest thing I ever did, right? So I set up a table with a TV on top of it, with a couple of glass light tubes on top of it. And then I what did I do? I think it was like a belly to belly suplex over the ropes through all of it, like all of it. It all crushes to the ground. You hear the TV sort of like pop explode, and like it injured the guy and took him out for like 8 months.
That's beautiful. Can you customize like your wrestler outfit?
Yes, you can, and because the game is built so simply, you can actually make your own textures and put them in the game if you want.
Nice.
And
oh my
the
God.
coolest
So what
thing
you're saying is we could make a Lucha Libre style wrestler called Senor Spicy
yes, you
and have the
could.
Spicy Waffle logo?
Yes, you
Oh
could.
God, yeah.
And then you could like, the cool thing is the physics are so real though that like, say you go to like suplex somebody through a bunch of glass tubes on the ground, and they counter, and you fall on the tubes.
Oh no!
Oh,
Yes, you get injured all the fuck to hell. So I had a match, and like I had the GM of the show come up and be like, "You're not showing me enough aggression. If you don't injure someone in your next 3 matches, I'm going to fire you." And they actually will. They'll fire you, and then you go back to wrestling school until you can get a contract with someone else.
It's like that Hard Time game too.
yeah.
Kinda.
This reminded me of Hard Time. That's what I was going to say before. Sounds a lot like Hard Time. I don't know if you've ever seen. It's like you start out where you're like a bunch of YouTubers have done it, but you start out with you're getting sentenced to prison, and and like you have to survive X amount of days in prison. And you got to build up your stats
and your
It's
reputation.
very similar to what you were describing,
except not as coherent or like functional. And you mentioned good physics. This is not good physics.
When I say good physics, I mean that like we're not talking like Havoc physics. We're talking like they're there and they kind of work.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of it, is what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is, like, if you hit somebody with a move right next to the ropes and it has any kind of lift on it, it'll take them over the ropes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep. See, actually, my real special move is the one that Merrick gave us, which is the Spicy Thunder, which is the sound that is made, the thunder clapping sound when I smack my dick across somebody's face. That's the real special move.
Oh my God.
Spicy Thunder.
The Spicy Thunder. But I remember that we played this one game on the PS2. It was like some sort of gladiator game.
I was thinking about this too. What the hell was it?
I don't remember what it was called,
but it was like a week-to-week gladiator match thing where you were going through your career as a gladiator.
Like sometimes you'd have to fight lions and shit like that. But one of the things with the game is you could try to run away, and by run away, it meant that you would have to like fight all of these random guards outside of the area where the Coliseum was. And if you killed like the 800 guards, you won the game.
Yeah. And also along the lines of what you were saying with the training, there was a similar thing where you would have like this energy cost if you did too much of the training, but you would train more. But there was this thing where you would have to go to different stations to do like work on like your biceps or whatever. The best one was the one where you're doing like the bridge maneuver where you go backward with your like suplex bridge motion. And there's like a quick time event where you're trying not to lose your balance.
And when you fuck it up, this guy would go like,
what are you doing?
As
your guy's like glitching out on the ground and fucking messed up.
Or then of course there's the physics implementation in Deus Ex Invisible War where you blew someone up. Sometimes their arms would stretch out to be like 900 feet long.
It was the best physics bug I've ever seen. It was one of those things where if we'd had Shadow Play, it would have been the best, the most viral crap ever. This character was stretched out like spaghetti for like 50 feet. It was amazing.
Yeah, one time we tried to stuff a guy's corpse into a chest, and it like glitched out so much that the guy became the entire level.
It was amazing. What were we talking about before we started this?
I don't remember, but whatever it wasn't nearly as good.
Okay, so why don't we move on to something that's slightly more coherent? Let's go with season passes. And Spicy, or Corwin, you were in favor of them.
Well, in some cases, right? And I think that the Fallout season pass is a perfect example of it. That take a thing like Skyrim, okay? Skyrim, one of the most successful games of all time, and yet it only got like 2.5 DLC basically, and people were shocked at the time that there was no more than those 2.5, one large 2 relatively small DLC. And I think that the reason why is because if you actually look at the statistics, the number of people who actually bought and played those DLC are like ridiculously small. And I think that when you're talking about a developer like Bethesda, where they actually wait until they actually make the final release copy of the game and any patches to start developing new content, then it'll take a while for the DLC to come out. And then if they haven't already essentially pre-sold people on it, people will have moved on and not really think about it when it comes out. And then you don't have any essentially money from people to actually make the DLC. And when you take something like Dragonborn, which was an amazing DLC, and it was almost like an expansion from the olden days, and then you actually look at the number of people who played and bought it, it's just pitifully small compared to the number of people who played and bought Skyrim. So I think that for a developer that does not start pre-work on DLC before the game is even out, it's actually a viable thing to be able to know that you can actually get those 4 DLCs.
Okay, so I completely understand that point, and my perspective on it though is slightly different in that, like, one of the laws of business is that you have to spend money to make money.
Totally
So,
true.
like, so I get the idea that pre-selling it might get people to actually pay better attention to it, but I feel like with a title as big as Fallout 4, like, if they drop a DLC, it's not like everyone's gonna fucking hear about it.
Yeah, but Skyrim was like even more of a cultural phenomenon than Fallout was. And by the time the DLC came out for it, it sold pitifully badly.
It's like everyone heard about it, but not everybody bought it.
Well, see, I bought it and I've never actually played it.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is a lot of people did not play Hearthfire, and therefore don't really realize the degree to which the settlement building is a direct follow-on from,
Except they clearly learned from all of the mistakes they made,
and also
with
learned
Hearthfire.
from modders and stuff too, which is part of where Hearthfire came from.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
so before we go giving Bethesda all the lauds and applause that they so deeply deserve, I don't think this one is one that they necessarily get a high five on, because before Hearthfire, there was build your own settlement mods for Fallout that did essentially that, and I think that's where the
there were
original
also,
idea
though,
came from.
There was a build your own settlement thing in Morrowind long before that. That was actually part of the game.
Oh, okay, well then I stand corrected.
But it wasn't nearly as in depth. But I think that it's something that people that had been a part of the series for a long time.
It's kind of difficult to tell
In
where
fact,
the dialogue starts.
In Blood Moon, which is an expansion for Morrowind, you actually build like an entire town very similarly. You choose where the buildings go and what buildings go where. You can't, choose nearly as many of the things as you can in Fallout, but it's clear that it's been something they've wanted to do for a long time, and the actual stuff was there finally to do it in real time in Fallout 4.
Totally. So yeah, that being said, like, I feel like if you're gonna have a season pass, like, I would see a season pass for an indie developer more than I would for a AAA developer, because, like, say an indie developer kickstarts a game, and the game is great and it sells reasonably well, but not a ton, because normally if a game is kickstarted, a lot of the copies you would have sold go out to people that kickstarted the game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so then you have a situation where somebody is either going to have to sell season passes or move on to something else or not do it. Yeah, so that's there's a legitimate thing there.
Right,
I think
so
on
I
the
feel
other
like
hand, though, an indie developer is more likely to walk away with your money because of the fact that they're not worrying about the future, they're worrying about right now and feeding their families. Whereas with Bethesda, they have to be worried about selling The Elder Scrolls 6 when it comes out and Fallout 5 when it comes out. Whereas when you're an indie developer, you're worried about, putting food in your mouth.
So you're more tempted to run off.
Yeah, okay, so, like, the thing about that too, though, is, like, even in that situation, the indie developer does have another option. You could always just kickstart the DLC.
That
That is
too.
true.
That is very true.
And I think if I was an indie dev, that's probably what I would do.
That's definitely what I would do.
That being said, like, and that's my point, is like, that's the only situation in which I could see it being sensible to do a season pass, because I feel like for a company as big as Bethesda, like, I don't know. I mean, I could see the marketing argument of, like, not enough copies are selling.
Because, like, imagine if you're the money behind Bethesda and you know that if they spend 3 years making a game, they'll sell $1 billion worth of copies of the game. But if they spend, a year making DLC, they'll sell $30 million worth. That would just, like, make your brain want to explode if you were the money behind it.
True, but you also have to think about how Bethesda goes about it. So, like, I don't think that they just, like, develop DLC in a box. Like, I don't think that that's all they do when they're developing DLC. Like, I would imagine when they're developing DLC, they're always exploring new mechanics in their DLCs. And typically, to me, it feels like they're testing the waters for a future game.
That is true. That does, even though they're not having people work on their other game until they're all done with the DLC and patches and everything, at the same time, you're right. They are testing out mechanics that will show up again. Like, for example, the iterations on the house building stuff that were in Hearthfire, and then it shows up again in Fallout. So you're totally right about that. You get side benefits.
Yeah, so it's like, you're only making 30 mil, but you also have research and development.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the idea is that, well,
I guess the thing is, though, you can't expect the money people to understand that at all.
Although maybe with ZeniMax they do.
I don't know. I think that we would have seen more Skyrim DLC if they had found it to be financially viable.
Yeah.
To be 100% honest, I thought that Skyrim's DLC was comprehensive enough, and I thought that it was, like, way better than what they did with Fallout 3.
I mean, I agree with that, but in my opinion, it was basically 2.5 pieces of DLC. The Hearthstone thing was pretty small, and then you have basically a small expansion with Dragonborn.
Yeah, and then what was the other one?
The other one was Dawnguard, which was an okay thing. It was a lot more in the vein of the previous, like, Fallout 3 DLC.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this conversation is basically we're kind of answering our own questions about it, because we're, on the one hand, we're talking about sort of putative, hypothetical indie developers. On the other hand, we're talking about Bethesda. And the elephant in the room is virtually no other publisher or developer can be trusted with the concept of the season pass. And that's just true. You just put a period at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. I feel like most companies with the season pass, Bethesda's shown that they're not this company, but I still didn't buy it on principle. I feel like most companies with the season pass, there's this huge risk that they're going to take your money, they're going to promise you something, and, like, I was talking to my friend about this right before we started the podcast, because I was trying to go over the issue in my head and just figure out what my position was on it, and, like, he just bought the new wrestling game, and when the month before it came out, they went ahead and, he went ahead and looked, and they had listed all the stuff that was going to be in their season pass. Now, when they listed it, they said, oh, there's going to be a Legends pack with Dusty Rhodes and this guy and that guy. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but the problem right there with season passes with most companies is that they told you, yeah, they're going to give you Dusty Rhodes and Andre the Giant and whatever else. They didn't tell you that they were going to give you a full res version of them. They didn't tell you they were going to have their music. They didn't tell you they were going to have their moves.
Always loopholes to make you pay more. Yeah.
And more to the point,
if you're
they
going to be evil,
they were going to make you pay extra for him as opposed to including him in the fucking game. And that's the thing that I hate more than anything else related with DLC, is when they're like, well, let's take a scalpel here and surgically remove this part of our game and then sell it 2 months later. That's basically how most publishers are.
It's like if you have a bucket of chicken and then thighs sold separately.
Yeah.
That is a great analogy right there. I like that one.
Oh, okay. So Dead or Alive. Got to talk about Dead or Alive, because that shit is fucking stupid. Because anyone who doesn't know, Dead or Alive Extreme is not going to come out in America. Now, is anybody out there seriously heartbroken that you're not going to be able to play Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3? Because
Spicy.
I'm fucking not.
Spicy, you just forgot one thing, man.
What?
Dead or Alive or Beach Volleyball Extreme 3 is not going to come out in the Western countries because of social justice warriors. It is their damn fault.
Like, let's be really honest. Like, that's some bullshit that whatever Play Asia said to try to get people to buy the game from them. Like, that's just, let's be really honest about
True
that.
enough.
Because
That's sweet important money.
if they wanted to release the game, they totally would. And like Unsiege just said, I've got fucking hentai for that. You can go. It's like, I think it's like rule34.pahil.net. And it don't go there without knowing what the fuck it is. It's a whole bunch of pornography of everything.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so Rule 34, they use the source filmmaker and they like extract models from games and nudify them in 3D programs.
And then they do things
and
that
then they
don't,
do things fully animated that,
that don't
you
even
wouldn't
exist
believe.
don't even
Okay,
exist on Pornhub.
if
Okay,
you-
that's
If
Oh
there's
my
like some of
God.
it's even really advanced, right? If you're into shit like this, you can look up Coliseum of Lust. Okay,
it's a Warcraft
it's a
hentai.
very in-depth World of Warcraft hentai. It's like a 15-minute full-on production.
It's
That is
amazing.
seriously what it is.
The fluid
And-
physics are above
Yeah,
reproach.
there's fluid physics in it, and you can find things though. You can find it from anything, any game. Tomb Raider, huge amounts of that shit. So
Oh my
you do
God.
not need Dead or Alive beach volleyball to get your fucking animated tatas going on.
Actually, if you want to break it down to the real truth here, is I mean, I'm not putting us up as like media moguls, but the thing is, this quote unquote controversy is the only reason we are talking about Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. So I'm cynical about it. They're not releasing it so they can sell more of it because we're talking about it.
Okay, so I that is actually something that Jim Sterling and I can't remember the other guy who touched upon it, but two of these larger YouTubers that analyze this stuff touched upon the fact that it seemed like a scheme possibly so that Play Asia would sell more copies
that's
of the
clearly
game.
what it is.
Oh yeah, and also just in general, people will talk about something that will never otherwise get talked
But instead, everybody like it turns out shockingly that the average gamer who wants Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball is actually supposedly what they would call a social justice warrior and went instead to buy it from other sites.
about. I
Okay,
just had a terrible thought. What if it's like the best, most realistic volleyball game that anyone's ever played, and no one knows?
Uko, we've seen some of the footage of the game. No,
It's not.
no.
Okay, well,
Look, dude,
that's a damn
They
shame.
have an event where like they stand on top of some like floating thing in the middle of a pool
With the tug
and they
rope.
try to push each other's asses off, push each other off with their asses.
So that's gonna. So you're saying it's not the X Games, it's like the triple X Games.
Okay, so that all being said, there are actually people on the other side who are literally saying that it's people like Jim Sterling who have caused the game not to be released in America because the reason the company isn't doing it is because they're afraid of what would happen to them with the social justice warriors.
Like I want to ask them, what the fuck were they doing then when they released Dead or Alive like Ultimate Taco Edition or whatever the most recent version was? Because it has just as much TNA in it
And not only
as
that,
Extreme Beach Volleyball.
when you have your victory scene, the game freezes and you get full control over the pan and zoom of the camera, so you can zoom right in on the TNA.
Yeah,
And so that's and like there's outfits where like it's literally little skimpy suspenders that run down like the chest and cover the nipples, and there's no shirt.
yep.
So it just that's it's the same thing.
But in reality, what it comes down to is the last release of Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball sold something like 60,000 copies in Japan, like the home of hentai porn. And how many copies can it have sold in America? Seriously, could it have possibly been worth printing out discs?
Oh,
in English?
Unsieged. We've seen some shit already.
Yeah, we have seen some extreme shit with the Oculus Rift.
We have a Rift.
Hentai-wise.
It's bizarre. The only interaction you have in the game is to kick things.
yes. Okay, so like
It's not
suddenly,
very erotic.
like you can no, you have in this one
Oh my
hentai
God.
Oculus Rift game, It's like in Unreal Engine 4 and rendered really well. But one of the things you can like command the girl to do things like, you know,
Stuff.
get down and suck, and then you position your body
Oh
in the
my
game.
god.
Yeah,
It's really awful.
It's really low tier, but still fucking hilarious. And
especially given the fact that there's like you can put like, did you put low gravity or does it just have
it's
low
just
gravity?
low gravity.
So if
And
you kick the
you
characters,
can even double kick, like your character is like sort of bent over, like bent over backwards with his legs sort
you
of
can play keep
half
ups.
spread out, and you could be just like kicking the girl into the air. You can play keep in the air. Okay.
Oh my god, what the fuck happened to this podcast? Oh god. I have lost all fucking control.
But at the end of the day, I think it's giving too much power to people like Jim Sterling, and I'm not denying Jim Sterling's
Jim Sterling
power,
is great, but
he's not God.
there's no way
Don't tell
that
him I
he
said that.
caused them to not release that game. That's just insane.
No, I know, it's absurd. It's
And if
absurd.
they wanted to sell it in the West, all they'd have to do is release it on Steam, because nobody complains about Honey Pop or all of those like Sakura Beach 352
Or like that, like
School Sex Edition
or that
9000.
that softcore
you know?
clicker game that they played. PewDiePie played that shit.
Yeah, Sakura
Maybe
Clicker,
Jack did too.
Yeah, nobody complains about that shit. And if they were going to, they would have done so when Honey Pop was like the most popular game for who knows how fucking long on Steam.
Okay. Game Goon says that
my opinion on Psychonauts 2 was that you should not fucking back that shit, because they will totally half-ass the game and not deliver in my opinion. Even though I love Double Fine, after certain things like Space DF9, I just can't trust them to deliver a full game anymore. That's the way I feel about that.
So, while we were on the topic of Double Fine, the first game I've ever played from them is Massive Chalice, which I picked up on Steam sale the other day. And it's a game that makes me incredibly sad.
I have not messed with Massive Chalice at all. I believe it's a huge departure from their norm.
Yeah, it is. Very
It's
much
some
so.
sort of action-y thing, isn't it?
No, it's sort of like XCOM, but the thing is, it's a
right.
wonderful game, and the reason it makes me so sad is because there are so many amazing mechanics that work so well, and yet every single thing in the game feels not complete.
Oh, that's sad. Okay, so that's even more evidence for what Corwin is saying, that there's something is rotten in their procedure somehow.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Like you literally like marry people and create bloodlines. Like I had this one dude come up and he was
so
like,
cool.
yeah, he comes up and he's like, I need to go save my uncle. They call him like Johnny the Walrus or something like that, and he won't and he won't leave his homestead that's being attacked. So it asked me if I want to let the guy go. So I let him go. He comes back like 8 years later, and he comes back bringing me Johnny the Walrus as a soldier. And
oh my god, that is so cool!
Well, here's where it gets
I've
cool.
wanted a game like that for years.
I checked Johnny the Walrus's personality traits and like genetic traits, and he has this ability called the Might of the Walrus.
That's amazing.
That's what I call my penis.
I am the walrus. I am the Eggman. Cuckoo.
No, so here's where it gets good, right? So I immediately turn him around and marry him to the youngest, most fertile woman that I can find.
Get the walruses pumping out, yeah?
And he has kids who inherit the might of the walrus.
You know, I was just imagining
that's so cool.
This like 16-year-old girl shivering in fear as she's being like forced down the aisle by the high overlord gamer under development.
Oh, God. It wasn't like that, guys. It wasn't like that.
And you're like, I will smite you with my hand of wrath if you do not marry the giant walrus dick.
Anyways, so like, yeah, he had kids that had it, but not all of them. Only some of them got it.
It's so cool. So it's like a bloodline limit from like Naruto.
Yes.
Well, sort of. So what happens is then you can take the ones that do have it, though, and marry them to other people and basically try to preserve that trait through the bloodline.
That is so awesome.
That is really pretty fucking
So
sweet.
what you're saying though, the sour end of this though is that that stuff is wrong with the game.
The sour end of this is that the game feels incredibly incomplete because, like,
Yeah.
when you marry
That's
people,
so sad.
they also have classes, right? So, like, if one of them has a class of a caberjack, which is basically a dude running around with a giant fucking ram. Oh, thank you, NDTV, for the host. So there's caberjacks, there's alchemists, and then there's, fuck, are they called archers or rangers or some shit like that? I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically what happens is if you take a caberjack and you marry them to an alchemist, you'll get what is called a boom striker, which is essentially those two classes melded together.
Interesting.
And then that's how it works with all of them. So every time you mix two different classes, you get a certain combination of those. And I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. I wonder what happens if I mix a boom striker with, I can't
Another mix.
Yeah, with like a blast jack or whatever they're called. And I tried to...
That's also
all
what I
of
call
this.
my penis.
Yeah, all of this, including just massive chalice. It's all what we call our cocks. It's just...
Okay.
No, you need a massive chalice to store the product of my
boom
penis.
jack. But go on.
Oh my god.
I'm
I am
lowering
wrong
the
about the
tone,
name Boomjack, and
okay?
I know that.
I'm lowering the tone.
Anyways,
you
so
know,
I thought maybe if you mix the hybrids together, you'd get another hybrid, and there'd be like some really complex combinations, and there isn't. There's just the basic ones, each combined once.
Oh, that's sad.
that's a damn shame. That actually, with you getting the name of that wrong, reminds me. Have you ever played the game Total Annihilation?
You're not going to go there. Don't tell this story. Okay,
Or
fine.
wait, no.
Actually-
I played Planetary Annihilation, and it kicked my
Total
ass.
Annihilation is fucking amazing. You should play it sometime. But
It's the original of
Total
that.
Annihilation. There are these characters called K-bot. All of the like the units you create are called K-bots. And I had this one friend who I suddenly found out that he called them Kabots. And like for a moment, it was like, I don't even fucking know you, motherfucker, calling them Kabots. And and then also Uko. He was playing it online, like this is way back.
This
But
had
he
to
was
been
playing it
18
online,
years ago.
and somebody asked him what his favorite character was,
Our favorite type of unit.
favorite unit was, and Uko was like the Thumper.
And he's like,
And
I haven't.
I've never heard of the Thumper.
Is that from a mod?
And apparently it was the Thud, and like
It was an
the
actual
shame
standard
that
unit.
Uko felt from that.
And it sounds like it's nothing, but I was like, I like the Thumper best.
Uko has a bunch of experiences like that in gaming. Like at one point, he was working as a reviewer for a game website way back that used to be big but is now like non-existent. And he was reviewing a beta for this game called Savage, I believe. Was that what it was called?
It's Heroes of
like
New Earth is the continuation of that that brand.
It's like a
It's a
like
hybrid RTS FPS.
yeah, where like one guy plays the commander and everybody else plays like a creature or whatever the fuck. And so Uko was playing that shit, and somebody was like, "Who was the commander?" And it was Uko. Whoever he was, shun him, shun him.
It's just hurtful. Oh wait, was it you though that built the thing with the ring of building?
I like, you know, as soon as you start building a building, people rush over to get XP from building the buildings. So I just built a ring of buildings around them so that they couldn't.
They built the fence around themselves, and then all had to just quit the lobby.
Because I'm an asshole.
Oh my god.
So that's Massive Chalice and and Double Fine.
Actually, no. If you've never played Stacking by Double Fine, I know that it'll give you like eye aids to play it because it's got a 30 frames per second lock. But it's this game where you play as as like a Matryoshka doll and his family. And so what you can do, and like this like evil baron is gonna like steal your home or something like that, and it's set in like a very
really stylized kind of steampunky
setting or something. And you play as the little kid, and you can only hop into other dolls that are one size larger than you. And so then you hop into one doll, and then you hop into another one and another one.
And they all have different mechanics based on what they are. They all have
different things that they can do based on the type of doll that they are. And that game's really amazing. Even though it's locked to 30 frames per second, it is still an ass ton of fun. We got it in like a humble bundle for 99 cents or something way back. And if anybody hasn't played it
Totally
and
play
likes
that.
like weird ass games that look really good for their age because of the use of focus effects and stuff, give Stacking a shot, because it is an awesome little game by Double Fine that gets basically zero respect.
Okay, so that all said and done, there's one other thing I want to bring up, and I was going to bring up the VGAs, but I think they're shit, and we don't need to talk about them unless you guys have
Yeah.
something insightful
Although
to say.
Ben Harper was awesome. That was cool. The tribute to I can't think of his name. The Nintendo Iwata, yeah.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah.
of it. Oh, and okay, actually, one thing I do want to say is Jeff Keighley is awesome for calling out Konami. Did you hear about this?
Oh no, the
yeah.
Kojima thing. Actually, yeah, let's talk this.
Yeah, so okay, first of all, I always have a soft spot for Jeff Keighley. First of all, because he's like a huge industry vet, G4 TV and everything like that. The thing I really, really loved him for, okay, back in the day when there was that mini controversy that wouldn't be controversial now with Mass Effect, you remember how there was like everyone was raging out on the sort of concerned parent angle, saying that there was so much sex in the game? And so there was this interview.
Women. It's a travesty, an atrocity.
Yeah, there was this interview with was it Nancy Grace? I think it was Nancy Grace.
Yeah.
Somebody on Fox News. I think it was Nancy Grace. But anyway, so Nancy Grace and this woman that they'd specifically gotten to give a voice to the video games are going to ruin the children's minds kind of angle. And then they had Jeff Keighley as the token, defender of video games. And he was telling the truth about how this would be rated PG-13 in a movie, and this is all just a bunch of noise. And they, while admitting to have never played the game, spouted this crap about him, how they were going to go with the research on this one and that kids shouldn't be seeing all this sex, and basically implied repeatedly that Jeff Keighley was like a creepy uncle who was trying to get the kids and the sex sort of on the same page, And the worst part is, so a couple of days later, EA sent a huge nasty letter to Fox saying, "Yo, we're standing with our developers. This is messed up, and we want an apology." And so when the big money people talked to the other big money people, the next day, Nancy Grace came out and said, "I've seen the game. I played it now. I extend an apology to BioWare and EA, and I shouldn't have allowed people to go off without seeing it." But nobody said, "And we're sorry" to Jeff Keighley, our guest, who graciously came on the show, and then we called him a creepy fucking uncle. But he defended the game knowing that no one was going to apologize to him for that. And so then you bring this back to a couple days ago. He finds out that that Konami is pulling contract strings to not allow Hideo Kojima to even travel to attend the VGAs. And so rather than just letting it slide, he tells everybody that Konami is pulling this crap. And then says, "Well, we're dedicating this musical performance to him because it's a travesty that he's not able to be here with the rest of the industry hanging out at the VGAs." And that is awesome because someone needed to say that.
Oh, totally. I think it's complete bullshit, and it just shows you how petty Konami really is.
For real, man.
Oh yeah. There were rumors that apparently Bethesda, the publisher, not the developer, was looking into trying to pick up where they left off with the Silent Hills game, and I really hope that happens somehow.
Yeah, seriously.
That would just be amazing.
Oh my god, Kojima working for Bethesda could be incredible.
And
because the thing
is,
it
could have VR.
They would totally just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Yeah, I think that would be a really, really interesting partnership for us to see.
But then there's hats.
One of the things I've noticed lately, and I don't know if this is a YouTube/streamer thing, but I find myself more and more, and I feel like it's a trend in gaming. I feel like there's a trend towards more roguelike, difficult, punishing games.
That's definitely a trend that I've seen.
Because I don't feel like when I'm not streaming or recording, I don't feel like playing Fallout. I just go turn on Darkest Dungeon.
Did we play that? Yeah, we played that on the channel, didn't we?
It's a roguelike, right?
Yeah.
It is. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler, but you've got this amazing narrator that does everything from this really gothic overtone.
For a second, I thought you were talking about Bit Dungeon.
Oh God!
Oh, or was it Bit?
It was Bit
Yeah,
Dungeon
it was
2.
Bit
that
Dungeon
we
2,
played.
the game where we literally shit on the game.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one you guys were like, I feel bad because we like completely shat on the game, and then like
I mean,
I was like,
The guy
no,
tweeted
it
us
looks
like,
all
"This is
true.
hilarious
We
video."
actually photoshopped the main character shitting on a fire in the game, and then also photoshopped some creepy old man in the game masturbating into a shrub until it turned white. And the developer came onto our YouTube channel and
To comment specifically.
upvoted our video and commented on how he found it hilarious.
I felt so bad, and then I
Yep.
didn't. Wait, who said something about an open world Castlevania? That would be the Shiz Knight. That would be awesome.
Oh, that would be really cool.
I would play that all day.
For a while, I got super addicted to Nuclear Throne, which is an amazing game.
Yeah, you would love that.
Which I enjoyed more.
Over to Itchy or whatever it was. I think it was Distribute maybe. And like I totally grabbed a key because it looked great, and it's very much like Nuclear Throne. Like I've got a good look video for it up on the channel, but
Really?
it's that
Than the whatever the game you were just talking about. But yeah,
I was totally like for a long time I had Neurovoider, the one that Blaster recommended for you guys, and I just every once in a while like I'd get done doing something and I'd be like, well, I've got to do a bunch of shit, but I have like 15 minutes. What am I gonna do? And I'd crack into that game.
yeah.
I had that with what was Rampage Nights for a while too. That was a good game.
Merrick turned me on to Orcish Innkeeper when he was our guest on here, and like that one, I'll get lost in it for hours. It's crazy.
I've played a ton of Nuclear Throne. I've only killed the Nuclear Throne like 2 times. That game is mind-fuckingly difficult.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But if you ever want a game that you can actually beat that's mind-blowingly difficult, seriously, try playing Hot 2 and unlock the hard mode. And that game, it is like soul-breaking at times.
But it is awesome.
No, you did not, Game Goon. What is Shadow Complex?
Oh, okay. I don't
there's
want to get
problems.
massively political, but Shadow Complex is associated with Orson Scott Card, who is a massively homophobic piece of shit, and I wouldn't touch that game with somebody else's dick.
It's sad, but it's true.
Well, Game Goon apparently got it for free.
Yeah, it is free right now because they're promoting something. I don't know what it is.
I mean, I don't mean to be massively political about it, but Orson Scott Card can suck it.
Okay, now I'm totally looking up what the fuck this game is.
It's
I
like,
mean,
a,
like a side-scroller?
side-scrolling.
Yeah.
It's like a side-scrolling 3D platformy thing. It's a re-release of some game that was back in the day. I think it might have been originally a Xbox Live Arcade thing. Don't quote me on it.
Azrael, Game Goon, I'm sorry if they just shit on you having Shadow Complex for free, man.
Yeah, we're sorry. We didn't mean to go all like pile in on it.
I mean,
seriously,
not
sorry about
everybody
that.
knows about its association with Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, it's not on you, Game. It's not on you, Game Goon, and
Yeah.
it's cool that it's free.
Yeah, no.
it is.
See, like that's how I feel. Is like even this. I felt the same way about Payday 2. Like I was not sure I was gonna stream it because of the fact that Overkill sucks now, and I ended up streaming it just because I was like, you know what? I did not give Overkill money for this game, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. I seriously, like Overkill. I mean, Payday 2 is one of those games where like when we were too busy to be playing it, I would miss that game, and then it all this stuff happened, and now I just don't want to play it ever. It's like if you were to go away to be in the Peace Corps, and then your girlfriend at the height of you missing her is like, oh, by the way, I'm leaving you for like Sexy John from the donut store. I don't know why I went there, but like that's kind of what happened, because it was like now that if I get way ahead on YouTube editing, I can't go and play Payday 2, and it sucks.
I'm very sorry for your loss there, Uko. Azrael Angel is asking, what do we think about Cyberpunk 2077, because she's looking forward to it. I will let you guys go first.
Okay, my opinion is that everything that I have no interest about in The Witcher, I think that would make a really good game in Cyberpunk 2077. And the reason why is because I don't think that Cyberpunk 2077 can actually have the hub system that ruins The Witcher. And I think that maybe a little bit more urban a game would make a game by CD Projekt a lot more enjoyable to me.
I don't even have to say anything because you just totally summed up how I felt already.
I am concerned. I feel like Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the greatest potential IPs we've seen sort of be made in a modern iteration in a long time. I think if they do this right, the game could have several more sequels that would all, of course, be able to expand upon itself because of the setting. And my biggest concern is, after the shit that was pulled with the launch on The Witcher 3, like, I would be concerned about the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. My trust levels with CD Projekt Red are not very good right now.
I guess
I mean, I'm with you on that.
Perspective of the fact that I thought the graphics looked fine in The Witcher. Yeah, it was downgraded, but I guess it didn't matter to me anyway, since I was never going to enjoy it. And since I also know that I'm an asshole with a really good computer and it will probably run well anyway, I just figure as long as it's a good game, I don't care if it launches in a kind of shabby state.
So the thing that bugged me about it, and like, okay, so I need to state something first before I explain what bugged me about it, because this is sort of a need-to-know thing. I'm not a graphics guy. I don't give a shit. I care so much more about mechanics and gameplay than I do about graphics. It could have looked like Witcher 2, and I wouldn't have complained. But here's what happened. The game comes out, it looks amazing. It runs okay, but it looks amazing. And then the next day, I turn it on, and it was fucking bad. We're talking like Final Fantasy VIII bad.
Okay, so hearing it from that perspective, that actually I can understand a lot more of how it would burn, because it reminds me of the launch fiasco with Dead Island 1.
Oh, totally.
Nobody saw that shit. Were you around for that?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, because even a year later I had issues with it.
Because for us, when we first started playing Dead Island 1, what happened was we were playing it, it was perfect, and about like 3 hours into us playing it, we decided, okay, let's we're gonna take a break and get some food.
Yeah.
So we shut the game down, and we go off, we're eating pizza or whatever, talking about how awesome the game was.
And it's updated.
And then we get back, and they've updated it to remove like the developer console and those like really fucked up misogynistic references in the game code,
which was just unbelievable. And it ran like crap.
I believe that one of the talents in the game code was called feminist whore, but
this was not in the release, but it was, you could see
in the
it.
Game code. Not really a very nice thing. But
but what we got in return was the game ran choppily.
Yeah, the game from then on, anytime that you would move the mouse,
or press the W key, like to go forward, or anything on the keyboard.
If you played with an Xbox controller, it would run perfectly. But if you move the mouse or your keyboard, it would often just like chop horribly. And to this day, it's still fucked up.
And no, I have not heard of that on Siege.
And it was perfect before they did that after a release patch.
So when I had that issue, you know what I had to do to fix it?
What?
I had to go in.
The game?
No, you have to go in and modify one of the files so that it caps the frame rate at 60, because the reason it has that issue is they basically uncapped the frame rate and told it to burn as much RAM as it can.
Wow.
You know what we did to make it halfway playable? We went and went into the Windows settings and reduced the poll frequency on the keyboard for when you hold down a key.
Yeah.
And it would get about 80% perfect.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, no. So that's what bugged me about that. But the
hearing
biggest
that in that context, I understand.
Yeah. So like the biggest thing about it for me though was that it wasn't about the fucked up graphics. That was terrible. Like, it was shockingly terrible. But the thing that really bugged me about it was the dishonesty. It's the selling the game in a state that you know that it cannot possibly perform well.
Yeah,
and to also, I guess, to kind of bury it as if, oh, that never happened. This is what it looks like.
Well, and they buried it under DLC, and the whole time they put out the DLC and this whole thing happened, people just, oh, but the DLC, it's so amazing.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, like when you compare that to like Fallout 4, where like some of the parts in the middle of Boston get low frame rate, and Bethesda's just like, oh.
But they got to it. They're like,
honest.
whatever, yeah.
You know, at least it's honest.
Also, you know what's really bad is that I know personally of people out there who were like, this game runs like crap, and people are like, did you update your video drivers? And they're like, no. And you're like, when did you last update your video drivers? And they're like, April. I was like, well, screw you.
Okay, you know what? As much as that is true, I updated my drivers and it fucked my whole setup up for like a little while, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Oh, that sucks.
Yep. I've had stuff like that.
I've got lucky and unlucky with that.
For a while, I had a problem where my my monitor would not display properly beyond a certain driver update, and it took like, I don't know, a year and a half for NVIDIA to fix it.
Yeah, that sounds
So
like
you
the
just had
mic
to run
issue
with old-
I had with Win 10.
Yep. It was very irritating. But okay, so one last thing before we stop here. I was trying to look up and see what the deal was with the DLC in Far Cry 4, because I really loved Far Cry 4, and the DLC was on sale, and I wanted to see what it was like, and it turned out I didn't really want
such
it.
Shit.
But one of the things I saw when I was searching for it is this article from Kotaku talking about Dying Light, with the author complaining about how the game was being advertised as having 50 hours or more of content. The motherfucker was complaining about the game having a lot of content.
Oh, he wasn't saying they were lying. He was saying that
he was complaining that the game was too long. And the thing is, I understand if somebody doesn't want a really long game. That's fine. But
that's
act
on
as
you.
as if you think that it should no longer be a thing, as if the game should be shorter.
That's nuts.
I like long ass games. Like, you know, I don't feel the need. I don't feel the need to play all of them if they're too long. Like if it's a bunch of side content.
Totally. No, so like, and this is the thing. You guys know my standard. Like, I expect an hour of entertainment per dollar spent. So 50 hours for a game that ranges in $50 price range, that's what we call
minimum.
Solid. Yeah, that's a solid game. I don't see that as a problem.
And so the thing is, the way I see it is there are a bunch of indie games, especially, and even like if you want a short ass game, play Call of Duty Black Ops 3 for 5 minutes with the single player, and then you're done.
Absolutely.
And like, don't try to screw everyone else in the gaming world out of having a long ass game that they can get their fucking money's worth out of.
No, and totally. I think the reason we're seeing such a rise of indie games right now is because they actually meet that. Like, the way that I came up with the dollar per hour ratio was by looking at what great indie games I was playing versus what great AAA games I was playing.
Yeah.
And like indie games, you spend $5 and get 5 hours. That's simple.
Good.
Simple.
Yeah.
I've played 176 hours of Fallout 4 at this point. So I think I'm going good on the Fallout perspective.
Well, and that's the beauty of Bethesda, is that you're always going to get more than your value.
And I guess, you know, it's why it makes me so sad about Payday 2 is that we paid like $2 for Payday 2 and got 436 hours out of it, but they still managed to find a way to make me feel as if they'd ripped me off simply by destroying the game.
It's true.
I played 2 matches of it yesterday, and both times somebody else got a safe, and I was just like, I'm fucking sorry, dude.
Oh, man, that's so sad.
Okay,
I got
heart
in those safes,
before my voice is completely done.
Yeah,
like the other day,
I'm fading.
When we were recording Paint the Town Red, I suddenly felt like it was like a sports injury. It was like something went wrong.
You could tell instantly. I could tell instantly.
I could
from hearing it.
I could taste the iron in my saliva.
You pulled your throat groin?
Yeah, I pulled my throat groin.
That's pretty much what I said. Like, I didn't know you could pull your throat.
And I was like, man, this is not good. But it's finally seemed to have healed a little bit, so I don't need to completely destroy it in the podcast.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. All right, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a blast. Thank you, Corwin and Uko, for joining me.
Thanks, everybody who listened to our crazy shit.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we will see you next week. Good night.